Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noe with SpeakEasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. We are back at it. Another awesome episode, awesome guest, a podcast host that we have recently connected through our community of podcasts. So, welcome everybody who are new to Speakeasy HR. For those of you who have watched previous episodes, welcome back. Thanks for joining and spending a little time with us on this Monday. It's October. It is crazy that it's October, and we both live in an area where we have seasons. So, it's great to see some potential fall weather. But I've got a great guest today for you all who have not heard of this gentleman, Steven Rothberg with collegerecruiter.com. Steven, welcome to Speakeasy HR, my friend.
It is great to be here, David. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, how's everything up in Minnesota?
Fall is here.
Yeah?
Yes. Yesterday it was like 85 degrees, and I went for a walk this morning with my dog in shorts and a t-shirt. I didn't
Yeah.
quite get hypothermia, but I think it was like 47 or 48. So yeah, winter's coming despite our best hopes.
Yeah. So I grew up in Michigan. I live now in Kentucky, so I'm still in that, fall season vibe, and I love it. I mean, in Kentucky, if you've not been in this area, we have usually it's like hot weather, and then it gets so cold. There's like no fall. And I feel like this year we've had some good weather. We haven't had a lot of rain, but we played a lot of golf. My kids and we play a lot of golf, and it's great. Like, it's been really good weather. And hopefully it stays around for a little bit before it starts snowing and everybody has a hard time driving in a couple inches of snow around here because it's pretty fun.
Yeah, we
So,
call a day with a couple of inches of snow a day that ends in the letter Y.
yeah, absolutely. So we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. I know it is being streamed in other accounts with College Recruiter and Steven. So thank you for doing that. We are live. So if you have questions throughout this episode, please chime in. We obviously enjoy it. I do have a new blog out there at Speakeasy HR. All year I'm doing a word of the week. This one is simplicity. I feel like everybody is busy. Every time I ask people, "How was your weekend? How's everything going?" "Oh, it was busy. We were just so busy." And it's like, try to get to the simplicity of your life and try to get back to what's important and how you spend your time. Everybody spends a lot of time on things that are probably just a waste of time. So look at that and maybe try to focus your, thought on something that's a little bit more important, and stuff that's not so important, just don't worry about. So go out to speakeasyhr.com. You'll have fun checking out everything that is available. If you haven't listened to previous episodes, you can go out there, check those out. And recently, over the summer, I was connected to the folks at Work Defined, which, Steven, you are also a part of. So if you want to tell people about your podcast world right now, I know you are involved in a couple of you co-hosts. So tell us about those.
Yeah, both of them are in Work to Find, also a network of shockingly work-related podcasts.
Right.
And it's work with apparently they decided not to buy a vowel from Vanna because there's no O
Yep.
in work. Actually, very smart branding. The first of the two is called Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast, because letters and words were free when we decided to name that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I were to go to ChatGPT right now, it would tell me, boy, are you ever stupid for naming a podcast with that many characters, but whatever. So Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast, very global. My co-host is a guy, Peter Zollman, who's the founding principal of an organization called the AIM Group. And what they do is publish analyst reports, host conferences, etc., about just about anything related to online advertising.
Okay.
So autos, real estate, jobs, etc.
Awesome.
He's a real journalist. I just play one every other week on the podcast. Also, kind of like you, LinkedIn, YouTube, audio only, all the usual suspects, as they said in Casablanca. The other one is called High Volume Hiring Podcast. And my co-host on that is Jeanette Leeds. She ran years ago the college program at Lehman Brothers and Credit Suisse. She was at AMS, built their hourly product. She ran the Oleo product for North America. And then somehow she agreed to be our COO, even after she was the co-host of the High Volume. You'd think that she would know better. She's very smart, but we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I think we should all forgive her for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so both the inside job board one is targeted primarily at people in the job board industry or who work a lot with it, recruitment marketing people, advertising agency folks, and the high volume hiring, mostly Fortune 1000 companies, government agencies that are hiring at scale.
Okay. Very good. Well, thanks for sharing all that. And yeah, you can go out to worktofine.com, check them out. There's so many great podcasts out there. I think it's over 60 now, and really like the work that Ryan and William Tincup are doing over there. So, so going back to when you were a younger lad trying to get into the world of business, what was your focus? What were you trying to get into, or are you doing what you wanted to do?
Yeah, no, yes and no. So when I was 13, a youth leader in a group that I belonged to was a lawyer.
Okay.
And for those of us of a certain age, I'm 59. There was a really, really popular TV series at the time called LA Law. And all the lawyers were like incredibly gorgeous, very well dressed, and everything they worked on was super interesting.
Yeah.
So I decided at that point that I wanted to be a lawyer. But even then, I didn't want to be a lawyer for my entire career. I wanted to go to law school, practice for probably 5-6 years, and then get out to start my own small business or join somebody else's. And when I went to law school, graduated, and was working as a lawyer, so I was sort of on track for that roughly a decade later, decided that I wanted to enjoy my life instead. So I kind of accelerated the get out of law and go into small business. So I started, while I was working as a lawyer, I started the business on the side that within about 6 months, was generating enough revenue and stuff that I could kind of leave law behind.
Yeah.
And that business has evolved, never pivoted, but really evolved over time into what is College Recruiter now.
Okay. Yeah, it's been 34 years now. You've had college.
But who's counting?
It's okay. Yeah, it is really fascinating, and I love the topic that you're bringing to SpeakEasy HR. I think it's so relevant in today's world, and you probably talk about it more than most. So cannot wait to dive into that. So collegerecruiter.com is where you can find Steven's work. So this is a question I've been starting to ask everybody that comes on, and it's, what's the biggest piece of advice you've ever received in your life?
Yeah, the one that I think had the most impact on me professionally was when I was in law school and I was clerking. I was a law clerk at Honeywell. And the way that it was structured back then was they had a separate little legal office. There were about 12 of us.
Okay.
That all we did was provide legal advice to the human resources departments. And it was a very diversified company. So departments was deliberate.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I worked on was kind of new at the time. It was ERISA. It was new Section 125 cafeteria plan stuff.
Yep.
And the company had to do a whole lot of things in order to be compliant. And then if it was compliant, could offer benefits that were tax deductible. But if you did anything wrong, it was you were a mouse and an elephant was going to land on you. So there's sort of the repercussions were for really minor clerical errors were really, really high. So they hired some people into that area to like really be specialists. In my second year there, I was promoted to work for my boss's boss. And he was a senior vice president of the company. His boss was the CEO.
Okay.
So I was really low on the totem pole in an 80,000 person organization, but got to see really interesting stuff. So it actually was some of the LA law type stuff, like some of the war stories, some of the stuff that came across my desk that really shouldn't have, because it was a defense or still is a defense contractor. Was great. But that boss, a guy named Marv Granith, who passed away years ago, but he was a master of corporate politics in a good way. When most people think of corporate politics, they think of people who are almost like stealing from their coworkers,
Yeah.
right? Grabbing resources, maybe hoarding people, budget, whatever, undermining those around them in order to get more power. And he was absolutely the opposite. Every single meeting that I went to with him, and I went to hundreds,
Hmm.
he would walk, we walk to the meeting, and he would like give me the little 30-second primer. This is who we're going to meet with. This is what they want. This is what they need. And he distinguished between the two things. And this is how I'm going to give it to them. It's like, okay, great, Marv. And what do we want? And what do we need? And he would have that all laid out. But in his mind, the first thing that he needed to do was to give, and then he would receive. And over and over and over again, these people in other departments, other divisions would be like, thank you. That really solved a problem. How can I help you?
Wow.
And he would have it all planned out. Bing, bing, bing. And it was always fair, very reciprocal, very much in the interests of the company. I was just continually blown away. I've tried to really follow that, sometimes more successfully than others, when we're entering into a partnership, a true partnership, like a revenue share deal with another company,
Yeah.
or working with a customer, or working with a vendor. It needs to be a win-win. Otherwise, it's just a one-off, and they'll never work with you again.
Yep. Yeah, and that holds true probably till today, and you see it, and so that's great that you had a manager like that. A lot of people don't probably have those kinds of managers, and that's why a lot of people leave their job, and then they look for other jobs as the job boards and recruiting and AI and how people find jobs is ever evolving. So, well, good. Well, thanks for sharing that. I love that. I'd love to hear what people's responses are to that. So, to shift a little bit, just so people can learn a little bit more about you before we dive into your topic, I've got 15 envelopes. I've got a quick 10-second transition. Hopefully, it'll work. But just think of a number 1 through 15. These are just fun, brand new icebreaker questions for my second season or year of this podcast. So, think of a number, and I'll be back in about 10 seconds. Did it play?
Totally.
See, it plays for the guest. I can never see it. It's always.
Oh, well, in that case, no. It showed us all of your passwords for, and it's weird that you still have a MySpace account, by the way.
Oh,
But,
man. MySpace. I wonder if anybody watching remembers MySpace. I'm sure they do. Whew. All right. 1 through 15, Steven. What do you got? Any favorite number?
Number 14, the number of my first favorite hockey player.
14. Okay, hold on. Who is your favorite hockey player?
Ulf Nielsen.
Elf Nielsen.
Ulf, ULF. He played for the Winnipeg Jets when I was a little kid, and then he went to the New York Rangers.
Okay. All right. I love it. I don't really talk to many hockey fans, so that's great.
Growing up in Michigan. Oh, but now you moved to Kentucky, so that's okay. That makes sense then.
Been to a lot of games, Red Wing games growing up.
I'm sorry.
Some Stanley Cup Finals games.
Oh, that Red Wings team.
Joe Louis Arena,
the good years. Okay.
The good years. Okay.
Yes.
What's one thing you can't live without on a work day?
Slack.
Yeah.
I know probably a lot of people right now are going, that would be the one thing I would like to live without. I started using Slack a few years ago when one of our tech developers was saying, this has been really, really helpful within the tech team.
Yeah.
And we should roll this out across the company. And I watched some of the videos to kind of get a better feeling for it. And it's like, okay, I can see how that'd be helpful to some people.
Yeah.
But it's our primary internal communications tool. And when used well, it is absolutely fantastic. It's incredibly efficient. It's incredibly effective. Every day, practically, I will go back to conversations that I might have had months ago.
Yeah.
To dig up an answer to something, and it's there. And then I don't have to bug my coworker. Well, it's like, what was the URL for that document that you were sending?
Right.
Or somebody had an idea for something and it just wasn't the right time. Maybe it was Q1. We should be getting to that in Q4. And it's like, God, what was it that they were saying we should do? Yeah. Bingo. There it is.
Yeah.
So we save a lot of time
Yeah.
by communicating in Slack.
Yeah. Yeah, I have used Slack. Obviously, work defined. We have Slack, and it is effective. I don't use it for my day-to-day job at Payroll Partners, but I've definitely used it before, and it's a definitely a powerful tool. I feel like a lot of people are trying to go away from emails as much as possible, unless it's like
Mm.
a external communication. You're not having to use Slack, but who wants to get more emails and when it can be a quick message on Slack, right? So
Yeah, and both of them, I think, suffer from people not using them well.
yeah,
No, you don't have to put every single person in your company onto every single message.
yeah,
That's where I think you just get complete information overload, and then
yes,
you can't see what's actually important because you're being bombarded by so much that's unimportant.
right,
So I don't want to get copied on anything unless it's actionable for me.
yeah,
So don't say to me, "Oh, I just thought you want to be informed." No. If it's not actionable, don't copy me on it. You can always tell me later.
yeah. Are you a coffee drinker? Tea,
Coffee.
coffee, bourbon? You like bourbon?
In my coffee, yes, and straight, also, yes.
Hey, I
Yeah, I was
never,
I'm looking with very much envy over your left shoulder.
I never will make jokes or you know make fun of somebody or give them a hard time in how they drink their bourbon. They can drink it however they want, but this bourbon is older than me, and it's from 1980. It's a wild turkey, still a little bit left, and um, so yeah, it's fun when you live in an area where you can find some old bourbon like I am in Kentucky. A lot of it leaves Kentucky. It's made in Kentucky, but it leaves
Yeah.
Kentucky, and then they have to buy it back, and that's a whole nother topic. So it's always fun. Um, all right. Well, I want to get into your topic. I know people that are watching live. Thanks for tuning in. If you have a question, chime in, say a comment, question, whatever you want in the section. We will have it up. Before we get to it, you can grab a drink of water or bourbon, whatever you'd like, and just a couple of words from our presenting sponsor, Payroll Partners, and then we're going to dive into it and get started here. Hold on one second.
Finding a new employee takes time and money. For one position on a single job board, you could easily spend a minimum of $5 to $10 a day advertising a job post. It's worth noting that the average time it takes to hire a new employee is 36 days. However, it can take longer than that. You could find yourself paying hundreds of dollars a month for a single job board. And if you're using multiple job boards for multiple positions, this could add up to thousands of dollars a month. There is a much simpler and more affordable way of finding the right candidate. At Payroll Partners, we offer an applicant tracking system to help manage your hiring process. Our ATS is customizable, allowing you to decide which days you want to run the job and when to close it so you don't break the bank. And this feature lets you e-blast your network, posting jobs on multiple boards at once, all managed in one location. Payroll Partners, elevating your payroll and HR experience.
So if you are in the market of new technology and are just not happy, look us up, payrollpartners.net. Contact me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you. I've been in HR for almost 2 decades. I've used a lot of systems. Great technology. Do you have great service? Look us up, and maybe we are a good fit for your organization. So, all right. So just like everybody else I have on this podcast, I like to ask, what do people enjoy talking about right now, and what are they passionate about? And in your world, Steven, it's this topic I really am excited to dive into because it's changing all the time. AI is changing all the time, and it ever evolves, and it's going to continue to evolve. So in 6 months, how you approach all of this, and how early careers and how people getting out of school into the workforce, it's going to change. It's going to change for a while, I feel like.
Mhm.
So looking back, what's been some of the biggest changes you've seen in how students, recent grads, approach really their job search over the years?
Yeah. I think that the biggest change that I've seen sort of related to technology, AI, for example, relatively recently, is forever employers have been complaining that when candidates applied to jobs, the recruiter, the hiring manager maybe often couldn't figure out, like, why would this person have applied to this job?
Yeah.
It must be spray and pray. The reality is there was a very high cost in terms of time and difficulty to candidates to modify, to apply with different versions of their resumes.
Mm.
Took a
Yeah.
lot of time. And if you're in a role like early in your career, the likelihood is that you're going to need to apply to a couple hundred jobs in order to get hired. And so to do 200 different customized resumes, or even 100, if you're in um, a better occupational field like engineering or nursing,
Yeah.
that's incredibly time consuming. And when you're 21, 22, 23 years of age, you don't have the experience to show you that that extra time is actually well spent. So the result was the vast majority of mostly young adults applying mostly to their first professional positions used the same resume for virtually all of them, maybe all of them. That's where a lot of the "I don't see why this person applied to my job" comes from. When you're early in your career, pretty much by definition, you've had little to no relevant career experience.
Yep.
Maybe you were a babysitter, then you went and washed dishes, then you were a waiter, then you were a bartender, and now you're applying for a job as a civil engineer. Well, guess what? Maybe you have a civil engineering degree, maybe your resume doesn't well highlight it or something else, but the last time I checked, the vast majority of employers are hiring people to do the job, not to write a resume. So I think it was very unfair for a lot of recruiters to hold a poorly written resume against candidates. I get it, but what ended up happening is they lost a lot of really good candidates. They didn't know it.
Yeah.
The cost to the employer usually was not significant because it's like, if we lost David, then another candidate, Steven, was probably right about the same. So big deal. Tree falling in a forest, nobody's there to hear it. Did it really make a sound? We had those couple of years coming out of COVID where you just simply couldn't hire good people, well qualified, who are going to say yes, who are going to stay with you, very easily. It was a unicorn kind of situation where you could actually land that person. And then just as quickly, the pendulum swung the other way. And it's been a really weak job market, particularly for those early in their careers. But at the same time, we've got tools like Gemini, like Claude, like ChatGPT. So now it's incredibly easy for a candidate to upload their resume to ChatGPT or one of the other services. And they mostly have memories, so they keep it, they remember it. So you don't have to do it for every job.
Yep.
And then you just paste a link in and you basically say, I'm applying to this job, like rewrite my resume to fit better.
Yeah.
Right? Boom, it comes back, you copy it, you paste it. Maybe it hallucinates and adds stuff in there that actually you didn't do, but mostly it does a really good job. I think, David, what employers are seeing right now when they say everybody looks the same, it's all AI. These people aren't real. These qualifications aren't real, because we used to get 100 applications and maybe 15 would be good. Now we get 150 applications and 130 look good.
Yeah.
So that difference must be just BS.
Mm-hmm.
And I say no. I think what it actually is that such a high percentage of well-qualified candidates before had poorly written resumes, and poorly written resumes are now rare. So what's actually happening is employers are continuing to receive applications from a lot of very well-qualified candidates, but now they can figure that out. Now they can see it. Their application is better.
Yeah.
It's really good news for people who don't have that awesome older sister who will rewrite your resume for you. It's really bad news for that kind of unicorn kind of candidate who actually did have a well-written resume. And I know there are recruiters who will say, well, but that shows that they're more serious, that they care more about their career and blah, 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 blah. Yes, in isolation, maybe that's true. But what about the internships they've had? What about the fact that they worked to put themselves through school? What about the fact that they served 4 years in the Army and then went to community college on the GI Bill and got themselves that associate's degree? I mean, what about all? I think it's been too easy for employers to say this pretty arbitrary reason is a good way for me to get rid of you and
Yeah.
to reduce my workload because now I only really have to look carefully at 10 people. I know I'm going to be able to hire one of them. They are going to be well qualified. So I'm good with that. And my boss will never know.
Yeah.
Now I think they are having to look at 100 in order to narrow it down. And that's where a lot of the burden is coming from.
Yeah. So as we shift into the next let's say 5 years,
Yeah.
2030, how does the job market compare? I know the last 5 years have been a little bit different because of the pandemic and technology, but what would you provide as advice for people who are going to be looking for an early career job beyond the resume? Because I get a lot of resumes that are really poorly written still,
Hmm.
and it drives me nuts. And they're in HR, and it's like you've
Yeah.
got to have a good resume. And sometimes the people I interview are in HR, and they're recruiters, and they're not good at recruiting, or they're not good at interviews. So it's crazy.
Yeah, plumbers have the leakiest pipes, right? Cobblers' kids have the worst shoes, right? We're all
Yeah.
guilty of that in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
Yeah.
You take your car to the local mechanic, and I bet you anything that muffler is making a lot more noise than it should. It's just normal. To answer your question, though, David, I think for candidates early in their careers, what I'm telling them is that first and foremost, it's a really bad market. Let's not pussyfoot it.
Yep.
I think this is a very scary time to be looking for a job now or in the next 5 years, because I think we're in the eye of a hurricane,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't know what that other side looks like. So to give somebody really good advice and say, I know where we're going to be in 5 years is just, I think, foolishness.
Yeah.
But one thing I think is true with any kind of knowledge-based job and always has been, and that is candidates with really good critical thinking skills tend to be better off than candidates who are, let's call it book smart.
Yeah.
Book smart. If you have an engineering degree and you're applying to work as a salesperson.
Looking for the inside scoop on payroll? Whether you're a payroll pro or just curious about your paycheck, we've got two podcasts you cannot miss. It's About Payroll delivers the latest trends for payroll pros, and It's About Your Paycheck is here for employees, breaking down pay and rights in simple terms. Two great shows, two great hosts, and endless insights to keep you informed and empowered. Subscribe now and elevate your payroll knowledge. Brought to you by Work Defined, where payroll meets people.
Right? That doesn't disqualify you at all. The other way around sure does, because you have to be licensed to be an engineer.
Right.
But what's going to separate you if you're looking for that sales position isn't the fact that you have an engineering degree or well-written resume, you went to this school, that school, your GPA was this or that. It's you being able to go in and talk to that recruiter, that hiring manager, and demonstrate to them that you've got really good critical thinking skills. Because when the world changes again in a year,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to know that you're going to be the person who's the most likely to be able to adapt.
Right.
And your inflexible coworker who's really good today, but just can't think his way out of a wet paper bag, that's going to be the person who's going to really suffer.
Yeah. We are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. So we do have a question that came up. Josh rocks. So what about the kids of job board owners, Steven?
So first of all, Josh, I thought was supposed to be in Vegas this week.
Uh-oh.
And then next week at RecFest. So the kids of job board owners are apparently going to be watching like Josh's pets to make sure they get fed for the next couple of weeks, because it ain't going to be Josh. I've known Josh for a couple decades. He's great. So I have 3 adult kids. One is 30, another 28, another 26. And one of them just graduated from physician assistant school.
Okay.
And so pretty much by definition, that industry is going to be not immune, but much less threatened by AI because it's a hands-on kind of job.
Yeah.
Although there are going to be people building AI tools who will say this is going to get rid of doctors and nurses and whatever.
Yeah.
It's like those people have clearly never been to a hospital. Like, you can't just go in and tell your doctor, like, these are my 12 symptoms, and then to come back to you with a good answer. People are like, what do you feel like? It's like, not well.
Right.
Are you running a fever? I think maybe. You type that stuff into ChatGPT, it's going to give you nonsense. So a good nurse, PA, doctor, whatever, they're gonna look at that. They're gonna run tests on you. They're gonna feel what your skin feels like. They're gonna look at your tongue, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of field is great. And what I keep coming back to with our kids is, and therefore others too, is to use what I've heard called CIV analysis: competencies, interests, and values.
Yep.
And what I literally do is tell them, grab your notepad, draw a couple vertical lines, so you've got 3 columns, and write down, brainstorm everything that you think you're good at, your competencies, everything that inspires you, that you're interested in. Write those things down too. A word, 3 words, whatever. And then everything that's sort of important to you. Is social justice important? Is religion? Is traveling? Whatever. Put that stuff down too. And then I literally say, walk away for 10 minutes, an hour, a day, come back, pick it up, and deliberately blur your eyes and look for common themes.
Yeah.
And I think what most people will see is that they do have things that they're good at, that they care about, that's important to them, to the world, etc. That's where to focus. When my dad went to university back in, I guess, the 50s, what was important in that era was making money. Typical kind of boomer, pre-boomer, like whatever occupation you could do that made you the most money, that was the right occupation for you.
Yep.
So he became an accountant, and he was mostly miserable at it. He did well, and he made good money, and he hated it. It was boring as all hell. And he got out of it, a little bit similar to me getting out of law. He got out of it because he wanted to enjoy his life. And so he found stuff that he could use the numbers skill at, but actually enjoy it. It was interesting. He went into real estate development.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I think a lot of, especially young adults, don't grasp, because they'll hear family members, they'll see stuff online. It's like, oh, well, David, you're really, really good at writing. You should be a copywriter. You should be a novelist. You're good at numbers. You should be an accountant. Maybe, but if it bores you, life's too short for that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that. I did write that down because I did like that CIV. That's great. Josh is going to be in Vegas, so he's validated that, and Nashville and Ohio. Curious where he'll be in Ohio. So look me up, Josh. I'm just over the river from Ohio. So, so I'm in my 40s. I've been in HR for majority of my career. And, it's kind of like people can have a second career. They can have a side gig. They can have an outlet of something that they are passionate about that they're not necessarily bringing home the money doing. But I've heard a lot of the gig economy or the gig boom, and it's like you have things like TikTok and things that people are making legitimate money on as not their full-time job. So I think that's going to continue to evolve too.
And David, you probably know people like this too, is that, their job doesn't inspire them. They don't love it, but they also don't dislike it. It's okay, right? Yeah. It provides me the good living. It's good schedule. The people are good. The work is good. There's nothing illegal about it. There's nothing immoral about it. Do I get up in the morning and, want to race into work? No, but I'm fine being there. It's absolutely fine. And one of the things it allows me to do is to do this other thing on the side.
Yep.
Play a trumpet, be in a band, go hiking, whatever that might be. That's important too. It's not
Yep.
just the 8 or 9 or 10 hours that we're working. It's what does that do for your whole life?
Yep. Yeah, and obviously the culture that you're in, the environment you're in makes it plays a big factor, and your boss, your manager, that plays a big factor in it too. So if all those people just get on your nerves, then you're probably looking for a new job. Um, so with College Recruiter, is it designed for people that are obviously getting into their first job, or is it for people that are mid-career
Mm.
and maybe going back to school? And like, what would be the ideal scenario where someone would use that versus another one?
Yeah. So our niche are jobs that require 0 to 5 years of experience.
Okay.
So somebody who's mid-career, your age, even my age, do some of us go back to school to change careers? Absolutely. And absolutely, there would be plenty of positions there for you because realistically, you're probably going to be competing with people who are 21, 22, 23
Yep.
for that or similar kind of a role if you're changing your careers.
Yeah.
If you're in HR, you've been in HR for 20 years, and now you're going for a master's of HR so that you can be considered to be the next senior vice president of HR. No, that's not the place for you. LinkedIn would be great. There are dozens or even hundreds of sites that would be way, way, way better. But if you're in HR, you're getting out of it because you want to drive a truck for Josh's firm, then absolutely.
Yeah.
So the way we talk about it is again 0 to 5 years, so early
Okay.
careers. So you're thinking part-time, seasonal, internship, and what some people call entry level, which increasingly entry level requires 2 or 3 or 4 years of experience. That maybe that's a topic that we discuss now or some other episode.
Yeah.
But no, if it has experience required, it is not entry level. Don't try to convince me otherwise.
Yep. So for those who are about to enter the job market or
Yeah.
recently have, right, that are looking to go into College Recruiter, what's your top piece of advice for them to stand out and succeed in the process of finding a job?
The thing that differentiates candidates more, like if you sort of step back, it's like, why did these people get hired
Yeah.
into the job they wanted relatively quickly, and these people who have similar qualifications didn't? What are they doing? What are they not doing?
Yeah.
The thing that differentiates them more than anything else is networking.
Yep.
Is when you find a job on Indeed, on College Recruiter, on talent.com, on ZipRecruiter, whatever, find it. I suggest going to the employer's site to apply. We can kind of get into there's some reasons why it's not as good to apply on a job board. But if you do apply on the employer's site, that's the start of the application process. That's not the end. What you should then do is take that, X1, the name of the trucking company, the hospital, the retail shop, whatever. Go over to LinkedIn and look at who works there.
Yep.
If it's a big enough company, probably there's going to be a friend of a friend, your uncle's ex-girlfriend, whatever. There's going to be somebody there with some connection. Reach out and ask parents, siblings, if they know of anybody. You'll often be surprised. Like almost everybody in our country knows somebody who works at an organization like Marriott, Target, Walmart, Amazon. The big companies, you're kind of like much better than Kevin Bacon. You're not 6 degrees removed. You maybe are 2.
Yeah.
The smaller ones is a very good chance that you and people who know you don't know anybody there. Fair enough. If you're applying for an engineering job, have a look and see on LinkedIn who are the engineers there.
Yeah.
And then reach out to somebody kind of randomly. The more that they are like you, the better. Maybe they came from the same state. Maybe they worked at the same company. Maybe they went to the same school. If you're a Michigan grad and you see somebody from Michigan State, big rivals, Send them a lighthearted email. Josh went to Minnesota Duluth. I went to the University of Minnesota, the real school.
The real
His was not.
Uh-oh.
So we have this
Uh-oh.
really fun rapport. We kind of
Yeah.
tease each other about that, but that gives you a little bit of an in.
Yeah.
Reach out to them, send them the link on the ATS. Like, I just applied to this particular job. Can you put in a good word for me? Can you make sure that the hiring manager sees it? Something along those lines. A lot of companies have employee referral programs, formal or informal. Some of them pay cash. Some of them just give good karma.
Yeah.
But every single one of them, if you're an employee who refers somebody who maybe didn't even get hired, but it was a good candidate, that looks good. It's a powerful thing for existing employees to refer potential new hires into the company. And so you're not asking somebody to do something that's just good for you. You're creating a win-win. It's good for them and it's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a lot of good points there. And I would add, or maybe ask, how important is it when you go to an in-person interview to send, well, a thank you email is really important. But if you send like a handwritten thank you card to stand out, right? Like that is I rarely get them. I get them from people that I just connect with that are like, "Hey, I'm looking for a job. Do you have 15 minutes to connect with me on Zoom?" Absolutely. How can I help you? Like, I am always for that. And I've had a few people send me a thank you card in the mail, and I was like, "Oh, who's this?" And then it's somebody I just reached out to, or they reached out to me, and we connected, and I didn't help them find a job yet, but how important is that? Like, through the process of an interview.
So rare and so massively beneficial. So I would say, how important is it? I think it's incredibly unimportant in the sense of so few people do it. If we look at like all the reasons why people get jobs and why they don't, it would be way down there on the list because so few people do it. And that's why it's so powerful, because you're really standing out. You are, if you're going for an in-person interview or even on Zoom and you mail that thank you letter and the person gets it a day later or 4 days later, incredibly unlikely that they've made a decision yet. And they get that. And it's like, wow, this person really cares. They took the 10 minutes to put a freaking stamp and return label and address it to me and, whatever. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It's just like getting, a Christmas or birthday gift or whatever, 2-3 sentences.
Yep.
David, it was awesome meeting with you. Kentucky sounds awesome. Hope to get there someday.
Yep.
Right. Signed, Cindy. Right. How wonderful is that? It's just, that's the kind of person that you even more want to help, that you can say like, that'd be awesome to work with her. The thank you note through LinkedIn InMail, through an email, also really good. It doesn't have to be postal.
Yeah. I'm always curious when I have a good applicant and on paper they look good, have a good call with them, and I meet them in person. And it's always timing, because if that person is coming in for an interview, they're probably looking at other companies, and so like we're not the only company they're looking for. Hopefully we're at the top of their list because we have a really awesome culture, and I feel like we do a really good job at that. But if people are actively looking and they're going to 7 interviews, it doesn't take a lot to even craft, like you said, a good couple of sentences now with technology. Like, if you're not good with words, it's totally fine. But if you're going to a service model, like if you're applying for a job that's service focused, working with customers like we do, and someone sends me like a really well-written email or a thank you card, I'm like, they do that to me, what are they going to do to our customers?
Right.
They're going to take care of them.
This is baked into her DNA, that she's aware enough to know that this other person helped, and cares enough to acknowledge that. And it's not like you're asking her to mow your lawn for the next 10 months. It's like 10 minutes to send a
Absolutely.
thank you note,
Yep.
but it's incredibly powerful.
Yep.
I
Yep.
see candidates occasionally as a follow-up, a
Yeah.
week after they're interviewed, 3 weeks after they're interviewed, hey, David, I saw this interesting article in Fast Company about, ATS companies and how, um, whatever, that some of them are really fantastic technology wise, but don't have any real good customer support. And that's a big issue,
Yep.
for ATS customers, whatever it is.
Yep.
Even if Payroll Partners wasn't mentioned in the article, to send that article to you, again, they're just being more thoughtful. That's going to be the kind of person that when there inevitably is a problem with a customer, they're going to be the ones who are going to be like, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this work.
Yeah. Yeah. You're hiring people you trust to do the job, take care of your customers. So the faster that an applicant can gain your trust, the better.
Yeah.
Josh, the real school too, the real L this weekend in hockey. Go Bulldog.
Okay. There's a rumor. There's a rumor that the of the two schools, the one that has won the national championships more recently was from Josh's school up in Duluth.
Okay.
There's a rumor. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's been validated or not.
Hey, I mean, you got to find a sport or activity, something that they're better at than the other schools. Michigan, Ohio State, there's always a rivalry there, no matter what sport it is. Obviously, football is the biggest, but hockey, college hockey, I love it. College hockey. So, Stephen, employers are listening
Yeah.
too. They're listening to this, and what can organizations do differently to attract and retain early career talent more effectively?
The biggest failure that I see, and this is getting better, mostly through some legislation in a few jurisdictions. The biggest failure I see is a lack of transparency around wages. Hey, folks, it's not 1948 anymore. Candidates can figure out what is a fair wage in their geographic area for that role with your size of company.
Yep.
So they know that you should be paying between $17 and $20 an hour, between $45 and $62 an hour, whatever the role is. They already know that.
Yep.
If you do not disclose your wage range right from the beginning, right when you're advertising the job, what you are saying to that candidate is you don't want to share that information with them. That's pretty obvious, but it begs the question, why?
Right.
And overwhelmingly, candidates are going to say, because it's not to their benefit. So why wouldn't it be to the employer's benefit? It's probably because the employer wants to underpay them. And what does that mean? That's another way of saying wage theft. The shareholders or whoever is making that determination is choosing to underpay their employees so that they can shift their resources over to something else. And it's usually going to the owner or owners or paying big executive bonuses or whatever.
Right.
It's such a disservice to everyone, including the employer, to be less than transparent, because what you inevitably get are when you're transparent and accurate. This position pays between $25 and $35 an hour, depending upon qualifications. If the candidate who's applying to that knows that their credentials, their skills, their geographic area, a fair wage is $16 an hour, they're probably going to opt out. They're probably going to say, I'm not qualified for this because I'm not at the point where I should be making $25 an hour. On the other hand, if it's a candidate who is grossly overqualified, and it's like, oh, I shouldn't be getting anything less than $75 an hour, they're also going to opt out. And what you're left with are far more candidates who know their value, who see that you're aligned with that and apply. There will always be exceptions. There's going to be that $17 an hour candidate who applies to your $25 job. Hey, I would love more money, but a lot more will just opt out of that, you'll be left with fewer applicants
Yep.
that will convert into interviews and offers and hires at a much higher rate. I've seen this and talked to dozens of other job board owners. The behavior for the vast majority of jobs advertised online, not the CFO type jobs, but the vast majority of others. Candidates look at 3 things before they apply to a job. Number 1 is the job title. Number 2 is the location. And number 3 is the salary range. It's a 3-legged stool. I know you're not missing the job title. I know you're not missing the location, but you're probably missing the salary range. And that 3-legged stool falls over without it. After the candidate hears back from you and you say, hey, can you take this assessment? I want to do a phone screen, whatever that next step might be in your hiring process. That's when the candidate goes to your career site. That's when the About Us section comes into play. That's when they might watch the videos of your, happy employees saying, this is what my first week was like here.
Yep.
All of that kind of stuff. It is really important, but it's important further down the funnel. It comes after the point of application, not before it. And again, this is early career. This isn't CFO type roles.
Yeah. I've seen stats about jobs available in 2030. And maybe you can correct me on this, or if you've seen, if you've seen similar statistics, but 85% of jobs that'll be available in 2030 haven't been created yet.
Maybe.
Maybe.
This stuff is all very speculative.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be in flying hover cars by now.
Like
Josh has worked in for this trucking company for, I don't know, it might be 10 years now. And going back just 4 or 5 years ago, we were all talking about autonomous trucking.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, not a thing. Are there autonomous taxis? Yes. I've been hearing that they're actually kind of degrading and getting into traffic incidents, doing illegal U-turns and stuff like that a lot more now than they were 6 months ago.
I've seen them in Arizona. I was out in Arizona and I saw them.
It's phenomenal, and it wouldn't surprise me if at some point down the line, but I think all this stuff is going to take a lot longer than a lot of people, mostly the tech founders would like us to believe.
Yeah.
I was struggling with this issue a year or two ago and really trying to figure out, in my mind, what is the closest analogy that we have in human history to the moment that we're in now. And I kept coming back to a couple of inventions that I think massively revolutionized the workforce. The one that was sort of the closest to our age were handheld calculators.
Yeah.
Until the 1980s, almost nobody in the workforce had a handheld calculator. And what that did when handheld calculators came in is it didn't eliminate jobs for people at the top, the senior accountants, because they were focused on strategy. They weren't doing computations anyway. And what it did is that the people who are more at the bottom, it really opened up that workforce, because there were a lot of people who struggled with, say, long division, but once they had the number, could use it very, very well, that couldn't get jobs until they had calculators. Now that they could, it brought a lot of those people in. What that also did is it allowed those employers to make much better use of those people. Those people became far more productive. Instead of taking 5 or 10 minutes to do a long division problem, it took them 30 seconds. They could use the rest of that time to actually do the analysis that really added value. It effectively made those people cheaper. Even if you were paying them the same per hour, they got 5 times as much work done. So you could employ a lot more of them. Going back 100 or a couple hundred years earlier, the cotton gin was another example. Before that, when cotton had been harvested, when it had picked, you had to pick out all the seeds by hand. Now you had this device that did that automatically, just by cranking. And it made the cost of labor way lower, because rather than one person picking seeds, they could turn a crank and do thousands in the same amount of time as they did one. Now, the awful thing about the cotton gin is it caused a massive boost in slavery, because the cost of labor was at the time the cost of owning a slave.
Yeah.
Horrible, awful. I hope we never go down that path again. But in terms of sort of analogies to the present day, those are the two that I think are the closest. I kind of think that AI is going to make us all a lot more productive, and that the optimistic side of me says that means that there's going to be increased demand for employees, not a
Yeah.
decrease. And right now, it doesn't look that way. I
Right.
mean, it's a bad light labor market, but I think we're on the verge, maybe a year or two from that pendulum really swinging.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. So to sum it up, AI is not going to wipe out any specific career. It's not going to wipe out any specific industry completely.
Well, the automobile wiped out livery stables where my great-grandfather earned his living, right? You didn't need as many horses to get shoes
Yeah.
on them and whatever.
Yep.
I do think that there will be some industries that will be wiped out.
Yeah.
I have a hard time envisioning that 10 years from now, you're going to have very many taxi drivers.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
But it doesn't mean that those people will be unemployed, because I think that there'll be opportunities for driving or something closely related to that in other fields.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, I think the whole the CIV that you had mentioned before, life is short. You and I know it. So you might as well find something that you can do and that you're excited to go do every day, whether it's a part-time job, whether it's a full-time job. And as your life changes, you have a family, you have kids going off. My kid, he just today, my oldest, got his driver's license for the change in Kentucky law now. So today he passed his driving test and he's now driving. So that's very scary.
Congratulations and condolences.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And I'm excited for him. He's a great driver. But yeah, if you're in Northern Kentucky and you see a Jeep driving around, just stay a little farther away. But
you need to get a bumper sticker. How am I driving? And put your cell phone number onto it.
I know, right? I know. He's been driving golf carts for a few years, so he's a good driver. Anyway, so where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought. The folks that have the mid-career change where their kids aren't living at home. And maybe they, like you were saying, they want to go back to school. They want to find a new, their second career. They want to be a mentor. They want to do stuff to benefit themselves or younger folks. And so there's going to be opportunities. There's going to be a need for workforce. And so all of it is aligned. And being in HR, I'm seeing the people that are getting burned out, and I'm seeing the people that are excited about what HR has as an opportunity. So I'm leaning into it as much as I can. We are an expanding small business where I am. We are staying with the human element of customer service, where you call our phone calls, or not an automated system. It's you get a hold of somebody on our team. You're not calling a call center and you're getting, a generated automated system. So there are companies like that value the service. And I think there are businesses that want that still. So, I mean, things are going to change, things are going to evolve, but you can either get out in front of it, learn it, see what's going to help you in your career, and, or decide not to really take on AI and take on what's available to you and all the tools that are out there, and, really have to maybe struggle to get through just the basics and the redundant work. I think the redundant, making job descriptions, making a list of questions. What I am fascinated by, maybe you hear it, and I'm curious to hear what your favorite interview question is, but the people that I interview, they have time to prepare. I do not get a lot of good, thoughtful questions in an interview. There are some that are like, oh, why do you like working there? Why do you enjoy your job? What's the culture like? But there are so many questions you can ask in an interview, and it's like, oh, is this like an 8 to 5 job? Is this a remote job? Where's your office located? And I'm like, those are the questions you came up with.
Right.
So is there like a question that really stands out to you that you're like, you definitely should ask this in an interview?
From the recruiter to the candidate, one of the questions that we will always ask is, what is it that caused you to apply to this job?
Yeah.
Very open-ended. It is amazing what a high percentage of people cannot provide you with a coherent answer to that.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
What that says to us on the hiring side of the desk is you actually really don't have much of an interest in this job.
Yeah.
And that at times it's like literally disqualified people. Like we've had people who will say, I have no idea. What's the job again? And it's like, yeah, it's been nice. Have a good day. From the candidate side, I want to know, especially if I'm early in my career, I'm looking to advance. I want to know what the roadmap is.
Yes.
If I take on this job as a assistant customer service manager, in your company, like, where do you see my path going over the next 2 to 5 years?
Right.
Right. And if that company comes back and they're like, I really don't know, I'm just hiring for this job right now. Okay. Not necessarily anything wrong with that, but because the person you're talking to might not know that.
Right.
But I would have some concerns there.
Yeah.
I would also, not really an interview question from the candidate, but it's kind of in the same realm, is how are they treating me as a human? If they're using a whole lot of technology to keep me away from their recruiters and their hiring managers, and they're really automating the process in a very dehumanizing kind of way, that's not where I want to live. That's not where I want to work.
Yep.
And I think technology is great when it's used to improve the ability of us to interact together. So like, if I was interviewing with you and you were like, okay, you wouldn't be so stupid as to hire me. But if it was like, oh yeah, you know what, Steven, I think we might have a role. How does next Tuesday at 9:30 work? And I'm like, 9:30, what time zone? And you come back Eastern. And I say, well, that doesn't work, but how about 10:30? And you say, you and I could easily trade a dozen emails.
Yep.
What a complete waste of time for either one of us.
Yes.
If you send me a Calendly link, right, that is using technology to free up our time so that we can spend more time talking about the job and less time scheduling a Zoom call.
Yep.
That's a great use of tech.
Yep.
And I see too many companies trying to use AI and other technologies in a way to just hire a bunch of drones.
Mm-hmm.
And the C-suite, I get their motivations. They're focused on their quarterly stock performance. But, we as humans on the recruiter side of the desk, on the candidate side of the desk, we need to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Josh, very good question. I do get this question every now and then, and those are normally the people that make my finalist list. How is success? What does success look like in this role, and how is it measured? I love when they ask that in an in-person interview with our hiring manager and myself, and it's like they really care. They want to see what success looks like.
And the how is it measured is so important, right? Objective, measurable, not just like you're a lot better than you were. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Your sales are good. What is that? Because if you want me to sell $300,000 in a quarter, whatever the number is, and I hit that, you as my boss should know that I did a good job. And I, as your direct report, should know that that I did a good job.
Yeah.
When it's vague and squishy, everybody loses.
Be clear, be concise as much as possible.
Yeah.
Okay, final question, and I'll leave you with this one. So what excites you the most about the future of work for students, recent grads, and where do you see the greatest opportunities?
What excites me the most for those at the beginning of their careers is that we continue to provide sort of more and more opportunity for people to do what they really want to do,
Yeah.
where they want to do it.
Yep.
You can be in Costa Rica and working for a company in Lexington. With some of them that provide remote working opportunities, right? You can work from home for 2 days and come in 3 days. You can be a driver. You can, there are a lot more opportunities for
Yeah.
people. Now, you didn't ask about the negatives. That the reality is it's really hard to get any of those right now. But it is true that compared to 100 years ago, there are a lot more things that people can do.
Yeah. Definitely.
And I really do think that the winners are generally going to be people who are able to adapt and who embrace, maybe chaos isn't the best word, but I think that's kind of what we're heading in for, is that they will have to be really flexible and know that even if their company, their department, their manager themselves are all great, everything could turn upside down 2 days later.
Yep.
And they're going to need to be looking. So planting a lot of seeds and being ready for massive upheaval is going to be really important for everyone.
Yep. Blanca said, my son is a student at UK in Kentucky. So yeah, have him look up College Recruiter, and if he's not on it, he should get on it and be ready for when he's out looking for a job. So Steven, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed this discussion. We could talk for probably way longer, but
over a bourbon the next time.
I know you gotta get to the bluegrass state, or I gotta get up to Minnesota and make it happen. But for those still watching live, you can scan the QR code. It goes to College Recruiter. But yeah, Steven, if there's anything else you want to add to what people should be going out there to do on College Recruiter, or anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, we're global too. So, if people are in the UK, EU, Singapore, whatever, we have roles all over, and there are people like me. I'm a dual citizen. I can work in different countries. So, if you're that student in school, you're looking for an internship abroad, or maybe even looking to move from another country to the US, to another country, there's a decent chance that we have something there for you.
Yeah. No, this has been great. My whole month of October is going to be about recruiting and also career paths. The end of the month is a really good guest on your personal boardroom and how to make that help you as you go through your life and have a career in multiple potential professions. So be on the lookout for releases of upcoming episodes, because that will be coming out throughout the month. But Steven, this has been great. I really appreciate your time, and best of luck with your podcasts. For those of you who haven't gone to workdefine.com, I strongly suggest that. There are over 60 podcasts that Steven and I are not a part of, but are
and therefore are good.
They are amazing, probably way better than ours, but very fascinating topics, all in HR, business, payroll. So take a look at Work Defined. And Steven, best of luck this fall. Hopefully we'll stay connected and keep in touch, and have a good rest of your day, my friend. And we'll hopefully talk real soon.
Cheers.
All right. Take care, everybody.